Okay. So
Let me go quickly, tell Selena to join. I think she'll join on her phone, I think, because she's in she can do that. I'll be right back.
okay, sounds good. So Dylan, what have you been up to these days?
A lot.
Okay, tell me more about that. What's that? What is
Sure. I just had I had work at the Art Division group show. I had a solo show. I had
where'd you have a
residency.
Where'd you have a solo show?
I actually curated that at my place. So all the images are on the website. It's a full-on, official experience, virtually for everybody to view. And then just trying to look for more residencies at the moment.
All right, well, then you've come to the right place.
Yeah, how are you, by the way?
I'm very well. Yeah.
What have you been up to?
I've been up to? Since last we spoke, I think I got a master's, which I'm very excited about. And and I'm doing college and career counseling here and for a high school. And that's basically what I've been doing. Living life and enjoying life. Yeah. And Briseida just joined us. Hi, Briseida.
Hey.
Hi, glad to see you.
Glad to see everyone.
Yeah, Dan is going to be back in a minute, and I believe that he has somebody else in the studio who's going to join us. And then once that happens, we'll go ahead and get started. Now, Rebecca, who on this call do you already know?
Briseida, we worked together briefly in the beginning of the spring.
No, I couldn't stick to the class, but
yeah, no, totally fine. But so we've met before. And I think that that's it. If Selena's joining, then I've worked with them.
Joining. She got distracted because, and I should tell you all this, we got this insane donation. Insane. It's overwhelming because a art supply store went out of business and gave us all their art supplies.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
We have enough sketchbooks to last until forever. So if anyone wants to come, I'm not going to divvy it up. You just come and get take whatever you want. There's a huge bag of pencils, just drawing pencils. There's paint, there's tons of paper, and there's tons of sketchbooks. So just anyone who wants to come over.
Come by.
Yeah, just come by, please, because there's reams of really good drawing paper. And that. And then there's something I wanted to ask you, Rebecca, and now I forget what it was. Maybe it was just that. Maybe I was just going to tell you that, but no, I forget. I think that's it.
Oh, okay. Cool.
All right. Well, I know everybody is super busy, so I'm going to say let's go ahead and move forward. Because since this is being recorded, anyone who comes in late can catch up. I'm going to give it over to Rebecca and Dan. And if there's a question that I know a few people have had, Rebecca, is what is a residency?
Right.
So before we even jump in with how to apply and specific programs that you are aware of, I would love to start this, but we started with that. But basically, Rebecca, who many of you know, is Art Division's fabulous painting instructor, excuse me, and Dan, all of you know. So Rebecca's going to talk about residencies in general, and Dan has some important information about a residency coming up in Oaxaca in January. So with that, and I'll be sure to make time for questions and answers, but with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Rebecca.
Sure. Yeah. Before I start, actually, could each of the students here, if each of you could just introduce yourself, your pronouns, maybe what medium you tend to work in or prefer, and if there's anything in particular that you'd really like me to cover today, that would be really helpful.
Sure, I'll start it off. My name is Dylan Garcia. I use the pronouns he, him. I mainly work in the disciplines of sculpture, installation, photography, and performance. And something I'd like to learn today is more of the opportunities abroad
Mhm.
in regards to residencies abroad and how that can interfere with your like day-to-day life here if you're trying to do that abroad.
Mhm. Cool. Great. Awesome.
Hi, I'm Briseda. My pronouns are she, her. I am exploring more film. I had an interest since high school, but never pursued it. So now I'm just getting back into it or exploring it more. And I just want to know what a residency program is, like what experience do you need? Yeah, if you need any background education, like in the arts.
Mhm. Cool. Great.
Everyone, I'm Angela, she, her, hers. And I guess I also had similar like questions, kind of like Jillian, more like abroad residencies and how is that like in terms of like cost as well?
Mhm. Great. Selena, would you mind just introducing yourself with your pronouns and anything that you might want me to cover today?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Selena. I go by she and her, and really just want to know more about residencies. I have no prior experience, and I've never tried to apply to one, and that would be something that I'm interested in figuring out and would try to do in the future.
Cool. Great. And then Kata?
Hi everyone, my name is Kata. I've been at art division for like 2 years now, and yeah, I'm a visual artist, and I'm just interested in learning more about residencies because I also don't know much about them. And yeah, my pronouns are they, them.
Cool. Great. Thank you all. So, okay, so I'm Rebecca. I teach painting at Art Division. And so this is a good topic, I think, to cover. And I'm super excited and curious to hear about what Dan is going to describe, because that will be kind of an example of what at least a couple of you asked about too, in terms of working abroad. So a couple people, I remember when I was kind of first starting off, I kept hearing people kind of like suggest residencies as a thing that I should look into doing, but didn't really know what they actually even were. Does anybody have a sense or want to take a stab at what a residency even is?
I mean, from what I know, it's basically a space and time that you take to work on your artwork, as well as like some of them, depending, are also like community involved. You get shows, you do workshops.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So basically, I'm going to actually share my screen. Oh, would you mind enabling me to screen share? Cool. Um, so a residency, basically, they take many different forms. They have many different levels of expectations that the residency has of you. They have commit, some of them will give you a stipend, some of them will charge you money. Some of them are just giving you access to a studio in the place that you already live. Others are a whole endeavor of going somewhere else for a specific period of time in order to work there specifically. Some residencies offer classes, some are just open-ended time to make work. So I, just to give everyone a heads up, I'll drop this in the chat, but I've made a, I've made a spreadsheet of a few different residencies that I think might be worth looking into for art division students. Another thing to know about residencies is that they really cater, different residencies are sort of geared for artists at different stages in their career or in their artistic life. So some residencies are great for for young people, for people who are sort of in the beginning of their career, who are potentially like looking to build their skill set or network or just hang out and socialize with other artists. Other residencies are more for like what are called mid-career artists, people who already, have been working for a decade or a couple of decades and have a long exhibition history, and it's more of sort of like a professional it's sort of a different kind of professional container for them. But so some kind of basics on what residencies are that concern us right now are a residency is basically a designated amount of time within which an outside organization supports your work in some way. So this, for visual artists, can come in the form of getting studio space, getting a stipend for your living expenses or for art supplies or both. Some offer studio visits with people who are connected to the organization. Some offer instruction in or access to materials that are hard to find or work with or learn how to use otherwise, that organization has special resources for. And I'll look over a couple of those with you because those are really interesting and worth looking at. Obviously, one reason is just to meet and have some period of time where you're just able to hang out with other artists all the time. Sometimes it's compelling to work in a specific place, like, if you're interested in working abroad, sometimes that's just because it's fun to travel, and if you can do it, of course, that's fabulous. Or it could be that maybe you're doing research on or making work about a specific place or a specific history or a specific social phenomenon that you can do, that a certain place really speaks to that body of work or that research. So another one I'll talk about is like the national parks actually sponsor funded residencies in many of the national parks around the country. And so for anybody who's making work about like ecology, about the history of the parks, about the national landscape, stuff like that, that's one other kind of reason to look into a residency. And then a last reason is sort of that sometimes it's a good resume item. Applying for basically anything is competitive, and if you're accepted, that's a great feather in your cap. Some residencies will ask something of you in return, though not all of them will. I don't actually know of any residencies that say at the end of this time, you need to present us with whatever work you proposed. That I don't think is really a thing. Maybe if you get a grant that's only money to do something, but residencies I think are more open-ended. What they might ask you to do is to give an artist's talk on your work to other residents, to people who are part of the organization, to people in the surrounding community. They might want you to teach a class. They might want you to donate something that you made during the time that you were there. The first two of those are good skills for you to build regardless. Donating a piece of work, some people feel put out by that. Other people don't really mind. I think it's kind of depends on who you are. And then some residencies require tuition of some kind. Obviously, also, most of those do not offer a stipend. However, I will add the caveat that all of the places that I'm sending over, and I think just especially in general, most residencies I would not hold off from applying just because the sticker price online is something that you can't afford. Basically, all of them offer financial aid, and Art Division is here to both advocate for you in that respect and even potentially to help you fundraise in that respect. So don't let that be a deal breaker for you. Few reasons why you might want to do this are why might any of you be interested in why might this seem compelling to any of you? So in my experience, or just sort of from what I intuit, some reasons that this could be a compelling thing to apply for or to look into is that you might not have studio space in the place that you live, and you might not be able to afford studio, paying rent for a studio on top of where you already live. So if you are, some residencies might just be able to provide you with a studio space. That's obviously huge. Maybe you just want a focused amount of time to concentrate more intensively or more exclusively on your art. If a residency gives you a stipend, then you are able to do that. You might want to learn a specific skill that the residency offers instruction in. You might want to, like I was saying, make art related to a specific place or area of research. And you might just want to be around other artists. I mean, because you're all at Art Division, you have this community all around you and a common space to meet within. So that's huge. But if there's if there's ever a time where you're not able to be here, or you're in a new place, and don't know a lot of people, residencies can be a good kind of social opportunity as well. Some reasons not to do them, there's pros and cons. Some reasons not to do residencies. The biggest one, or the biggest two, which are related, I think, are if the residency costs money, doesn't offer a stipend, and can't give you financial aid. And again, most that require tuition are, are highly negotiable. But let's say you negotiate with them and they can't make you a doable offer. It's worth considering what the benefits of that particular residency are. If it's just space and being in a nice location, it might be worth just trying to save up that money yourself and finding space to work here. On the other hand, if it's something that you think would be a really amazing kind of opportunity that could really change your work, that doesn't need to be the case. Another thing to consider is, and this definitely applies to international residencies, is how heavy a lift it's going to be to get yourself, your supplies, and any work that you make there to the residency and back home, because that can be a whole other set of expenses and set of just logistical concerns. Some supplies you can't take internationally, for example. If you are if you're an oil painter, it's worth considering that you can't fly at all with terpenoids. So you'll need to find a way to refurnish some kind of toxic supplies in the area where you're going. That's also not a deal breaker, and most residencies will help you with that, but it's something to consider. One thing for any of these is you might not, it depends on your work situation. I think for a lot of people, it's hard to take off a month of work to go to a residency, out of town or something like that. So that's not the structure of all residencies, but if you're looking at something that's full-time, you should try and be sure that you actually will be able to get that time off of work. And the last reason is just if you already have, like I have done a few residencies, but I haven't done them for a couple of years, mostly because I've had a good studio space that I have a good flow in. And I don't really know that it would be more beneficial for me to pack up my stuff and just move to a different studio than it would be for me to just kind of stay in the zone over here. You know, at this point, if I did one, it would be because I wanted to travel or because I wanted to meet either other artists or somebody specific who taught at a residency or something like that. So I'll show you all a couple. Oh, and then just an overview. Applying to residencies and applying to basically anything art related, and we can talk about this more later, or you know, applications are probably a different workshop, but basically any art application has a standard rundown of portfolio images, an artist statement of about both your work and why you want to be considered for that particular opportunity, a CV, which is or resume. A CV is basically like a resume that lists your exhibition history in addition to your work experience, and a couple of references. I don't think most of them require actual letters of recommendation, but more just the names of people who they can call and say, like, is this person, you know, can you vouch for this person being like a nice, trustworthy person who others will enjoy having around? Obviously, all of the art division faculty and staff are here to be references for you, and we will say all of those positive things.
And Rebecca, I just wanted to jump in and say that is one, this is Ellie, that is one area where I am here to support you individually. So I've worked with many students over the years on their applications for residencies. I can work with you one-on-one on your statement and also on your resume. I will support you in getting your portfolio together, but I will also find someone at Art Division who can individually work with you to put together the right portfolio for this particular residency. So if you are interested in applying to a place after this and you want to pursue it with me one-on-one and walk through it, please do contact me, because that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and I'm definitely here for that too. You know, for any, especially for any painters or people working in two-dimensional art. I have done so many arts applications in my time, so I'm definitely here to help you put that together. Before I show you all a couple of specific residency programs that I think might be of interest to people, does anybody have any questions so far about anything we've talked about? Okay. So just to start, so I want to show you a few different types of residencies that I've talked about. The first one is local residencies, so residencies in LA that are giving you a studio space. They're basically giving you a studio space that you don't have to pay for. So residencies like this are great if it's something where like you can't take a month off of work, you can't pay for, you know, a studio rent, but you really want to make work, you want to make whatever, an 8-foot painting that you can't make in, you know, at the desk in your bedroom or like outside in a yard or something like that. Each of these are examples of residencies that are, I guess this one is not, this one is actually different from that, but it's still kind of doable in this way. So I'll talk about that too. But So like this is an example, and this is a great opportunity for female identifying people at Art Division, is at a studio building called the Blue Roof Studios, which is in South LA. And it is a one quarter long, so 3 to 4 months long residency for LA-based female identifying artists. You get a studio space, you get a stipend for your materials, you get mentorship from an artist who's working in your field, and you're working in a studio building. So you get to, you know, meet the other artists who are making work there. You can, I don't know what kind of stuff they have in their common spaces. Like some studio buildings I've worked at in the past have like a wood shop or a spray room, or areas that, you know, they have equipment that like you're unlikely to have, that you're unlikely to own individually. So this is, the deadline is August 31st, and this is a great, it's a great specific opportunity for artists within LA, but it's also a good example of the type of residency that you might want to look into if you're really just looking to expand on your current studio practice here. You know, you're not able to travel, or you don't want to travel, but you do need and want more space or more community or more resources to certain kind of heavy duty tools. I'll actually just use that one as an example, but there are a couple of others on here. One is called the Residency Project and is in Pasadena, and one is called 18th Street Arts and is in Santa Monica. The National Parks one is, this one is sort of in between. This one would work for anybody whose work is remote. If you don't have to physically show up to work, but you can work online. This is another opportunity where you don't have to take time off work to do it, but you also would get to travel, which is the national parks host residencies in, I mean, there's so many more national parks than I ever even realized, but they host residencies in many of the national parks around the country. These do have a stipend, usually of like $2,000 or $3,000. And some of them are also very easy to get to from LA. They have one in Death Valley. I think they might have one in Joshua Tree. They have one in Yosemite. So these are ones that you could easily drive to, you know, just load all of your stuff into your car, rather than having to worry about flying or, you know, dealing with all of that stuff. These don't always have a studio space. I think that they usually are most geared towards landscape painters or like earth artists, people whose work doesn't require a studio and does require them to be in a natural setting. And obviously for writers or musicians who use portable instruments, right? So like my partner is a composer, but he works at the piano, so he might not be able to do something like this. But if you play guitar and you can write music on guitar, this is something you can do. And then obviously, you know, if you write, you just need your computer. So this is great to know about. This is like on my bucket list for sure. Any questions about any of these? As far as local LA and Southern California residencies go, I would also just really encourage you, like this Blue Roof residency in South LA is new. This is the first year that they're doing it. This one in Pasadena is new-ish. I think it's been around for like a few years, but it's still like, things like this are kind of always emerging. And I think especially I think especially right now, like post-COVID, as people both have a different relationship to their art community, and as people have a different and more elevated social consciousness, I think that there are going to be increasing opportunities for local emerging artists that literally just Google LA Arts Residencies. A few residencies that are great for any artists, but especially for students or for people who are like lifelong students, are residencies that kind of specialize in or have access to particular resources that would otherwise be hard to find. And there's a lot of examples of this. I need to keep adding to it, but like a few of them are, like one example of this is like Golden Paints, which is an acrylic paint company, has a residency at their like factory grounds in New York, where if you go there, you get, you get a studio space to work. I'm trying to find pictures on their site. If you go there, you get a studio space to work, you get to hang out with other painters who are there, but you also get to work with their paint technicians from their factories who like know all of the different crazy ways that you can work with their paints and their mediums and new products that they're working on that they haven't released yet. And like, you just get a really hands-on kind of material intensive exploration of painting. That for any materials nerds is like a huge, I mean, would just be like a playground, and you get, to keep the materials that they give you. So that's really cool. Another example of this, I always like this one because it's like really out of left field, but anybody who works with ceramics, the Kohler company, Kohler, which makes like toilets and sinks, also has a residency that's actually quite prestigious at its factory in Wisconsin, where it's a similar situation. The same technicians who are making, their toilets and bathtubs and sinks and stuff like that will work with you really intensely on developing and actualizing the craziest ceramics projects you can think of, and helping, because porcelain is a ceramic medium. So anybody interested in ceramics, I think they also do metal work. This is like a crash course in those materials, and is a really cool and unique opportunity. A last example of something like this is called the Rare Residency in Philadelphia, which is, I think this usually goes to artists who are making work around themes related to ecology, environmentalism, the urban landscape, where you basically get a stipend to work at a dump. But for anybody whose work like intensively explores materials, this is also for sculptors or painters who like using, found media. This is a really amazing opportunity as well, to just access all of this stuff: concrete, wood, metal, whatever else. So there's a lot of examples of this. There's there are residencies like this in paper making. There's definitely a lot of opportunities to do residencies like this in printmaking, because presses are both hard to come by and different print media require, specialization. There's a lot of examples like this that I'll add to this and refer you to. And then some last examples, that these ones are, so these ones all are sort of somewhere between, like, these are sort of in the last category of like, you're getting out of town and you are like taking a month to just be painting in a studio around other artists. Let me just plug in my charger. So for this kind of example, actually, I guess first I'll show, no, I'll show these first. So for this kind of example, there's definitely, residencies in other parts of the country or internationally where like there's no agenda, you just show up and make your work. These are all examples that are a little bit like between a totally open residency and an academic program. Most of these have a component of the option, but not the requirement to take classes. There are visiting artists coming through to do critiques and studio visits with you. There are other artists who usually are also like either in school or are recent graduates or are school age, they're like 20s and 30s. These all have a tuition, but they also definitely all have financial aid and are definitely things that we would fundraise for you to go to if you were accepted. One is called the Vermont Studio Center. This is just an example. Actually, I'll talk about Chautauqua because that's what I did. So I did this program called Chautauqua, which is in upstate New York, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And what this really was, you get a little studio space. You're with maybe 25 or 30 other artists who are, also like emerging artists early in their career. And each week, 2 or 3 different artists and curators would come in to like teach a workshop that was like every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you go to that person's workshop and learn, painting just from their perspective of painting, or you learn art history from whatever their special area of specialization is. And then they also, look at your work and give you feedback or talk to you about it, or just really help you kind of develop your work. So some of this is, and I had a wonderful experience doing this, and I'm still good friends with a lot of the people who I met there. So something like this is a really great opportunity. I think it's a really good alternative to looking at like a longer term degree program or something like that. These are really great and really substantive and really fun opportunities that I think a lot of our students would really thrive in. So these are all examples like that. These are really geared towards helping artists who are right at the beginning kind of blossom into the next stage of their work and of their career. And so a last thing, so I can make sure that I talk about international residencies. On the first tab of this, I also need to add to this, but on the first tab of this spreadsheet, I have some links of websites that are just basically databases where you can search for residency opportunities or like juried shows you can apply to or whatever, just arts opportunities broadly. Res Artists is a database that's only residencies. So it's not going to be showing you stuff for juried shows or for job opportunities or anything like that. It's only residencies. And so the way that it works is that, let's say you want to do a residency abroad. If I want to do, like, I know that there is a really well-regarded and like well-reviewed residency in China. So if I want to look into that, sorry, I jumped the gun. If I want to look into that, on the first page, I'm going to just click on Asia. And then there's a couple of ways I can do this. Like I can just look at the map and follow whatever, areas look interesting to me and just click on there and see what it is. And I can follow that to more information about that particular residency. So this is telling me just sort of at this, museum, whatever, what the options are. Or I can use all of these different filters to sort of plug in like, okay, I want to go to this, this place, this part of the world, or this part of the US. Like this isn't just an international thing. But, you can keep narrowing down the country and the city, but you also, and this is really important for visual artists who are making work that requires a lot of space, you can and should filter by studio type and size, because some residencies that are just an open amount of time, like, they're not like this kind of like half school, half residency thing. And they're not like this thing where it's just like a studio and you live your life, but like have a studio space. Some residencies that are just like, come here for a month. You really want to make sure that they actually have a studio. Like some of them are like, yeah, come here, make your work. But like, we don't actually have a studio space. We like, we want you to, this is for you to like do your research, or this is for you to like, make small drawings or whatever. And if that's what you make, that's great. But if you're trying to make like large scale oil paintings or like an installation piece or something like that, something like this is not going to be worth your time and money. So you want to look at studio type and size, practical facilities, if you're traveling with a partner, you might want to look up if that's allowed. So stuff like this are all kind of boxes that you want to check. And again, if you actually do decide to move ahead on applying, and if you're accepted, we'll for sure help you navigate. But this is just sort of to get an overview of what you're even kind of looking at. And then the only other thing about traveling abroad is like there, in some places there might be visa requirements to stay in certain countries for over a certain period of time. I think actually China might be an example of a place like that. So the residency will help you figure out stuff like that, as will we. And then, the other kind of like logistical issues can be, if you're staying, and all of these are things that we would help you with regardless. Other things could be like if you're staying in a, if you're doing a residency in Beijing or something, like that's a big city. So you might need to seek help from the residency or from us to help you figure out like, how do I get a metro card there? Or like, how do I, just kind of like basic things that you might not know when you're going abroad. So that's kind of an overview. The one last thing that I'll show you all is something that's like not, or are a couple things that aren't really residencies. They're more just like classes exclusively. So it's not even like the Chautauqua kind of thing where you're like mostly working on your own, but you can take classes. These are just to take the class. But they're also really great opportunities. And I know some art division students have done at least one of these in the past. One is called Penland, which is amazing, also on my bucket list. And this is a school that the classes range from a week to like 3 months. And they do these very intensive classes on super specialized, mostly craft media. So like, whoops. I mean, I guess they have drawing and painting too. But I think that what they're really known for are things like, you know, textiles, like really the kind of stuff that you're not going to even know where to look elsewhere, but like, you know, stuff on like how to do plant dyeing, how to do, I think an art division student who went here did a class on like instrument making in their like woodworking department. And it's really, yeah, this is one where you like make a uniform and like, you know, learn about the whatever, like learn how to sew it, learn how to design it, you print the textile, you might even weave the textile. Like for any, again, materials nerds, this is like a huge playground, I feel like.
Yeah, and
And
I
so-
just wanted to jump in and add that I believe, Dan, you'd know the number exactly, but 5 or 6 over the years, art division students have gone to Penland and done, I think, 2-week workshops with a full scholarship that also paid room and board. And like if you're going to study, you don't have to be an expert in that field already to get a scholarship. Like Dan, I don't remember what it was, Jason, right, who studied being a luthier, which means making guitars, but I don't believe he had a background in making guitars. So you don't have to be too concerned that, oh my God, I've never designed a uniform before. They're looking for your passion, some evidence of your creativity, and then you can take it from there. But Penland is a great place, and at least up until recently, they know art divisions, so we have a really strong relationship with them.
I mean, I'd add Dylan can speak to it because he just got back from Penland.
You know all about it.
And the other thing I was going to say is we do have a good relationship with them, and we've never had anyone rejected that I could think of. Maybe we have, but it's and everyone who's gone has loved it. And Dylan, do you want to jump in with just a little bit of your experience at Penland? Dylan, I think you may be on mute.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I actually saw Penland as a residency. There was a class, but I mainly was there to use their studio space to get access to materials and to get access to the connections that they had. I wanted to learn the metal and I wanted to really dive into it. So they had the people, they had the materials, and then they had other people who were experienced in metal. So I really learned a lot of how to make furniture design, something I'm really interested in. Other than that, it's a great campus. It's a great space to just really create. But yeah, that's a little bit of what I had.
Thank you, Dylan. Tell me if you want me to jump in, Rebecca, or if you.
Yeah, go ahead. So that.
Well, I think the Penland thing was a great start because all of you, if you're interested in it, you have Dylan, you have Maria, you have Javier, you have Emmanuel. Luis Mateo, I think, has gone twice. Luis Hernandez has gone, and I've never heard anyone say anything other than how great it was. And it's especially great if you like to work hard, you know, and it will, I think the overall feeling I got from Rebecca was saying it's all fantastic. It's a little daunting, like it's a little like, how do I do that? That seems like overwhelm. I think Penland is a good place to start, but also what Rebecca gave you was this incredible, it's like you're at a buffet. I just heard of all these things to eat that you're kind of like, oh, I don't know what to pick, but I think that's what we're here for, is to guide you through that. And it's especially what Ellie is here for. Like if anything of anything that was mentioned piques your curiosity, don't hesitate to follow the path, because like I just said, every single student who's applied to Penland, maybe there was one that didn't, but I can't think of one, got in. And then I think they also, Dylan, did you work while you were there? Were you on work study, or did you get a full ride, or did you pay for it? What'd you do?
No, I got a full scholarship, so I didn't have to work. Yeah.
Because the ones who've worked have actually liked working, you know, that you have to do dishes. It's like, that sounds fun. You know, they liked it because it was a great way to connect with the other people there. It's in North Carolina, which is obviously very far away. And it's also Trump land all around it. But once you're there, it's supposed to be magnificent. But we have they used to come here and give presentations about it. And I think that's something we need to do, is reignite our connection with them. The things, how's everyone doing? Selena, Brisaida, Virginia, Angela, Kata, what are your thoughts at this point? Yeah.
I think, like you said, like the buffet of information, like I know you just sent us the spreadsheet, but I wrote everything down. I guess that's like one thing that, like, thank you, Rebecca, because it's kind of like you did all the heavy work for us and finding all these different opportunities. And you also gave us a lot to do our own research on to see what programs we would be interested in. So now I definitely have a place where I know I can start and look, and it's not just one, it's like multiple things. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Virginia, do you have any comments or feelings or thoughts about the whole thing?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Ellie and Rebecca for sharing, because I know that I talked to Ellie and I was really interested in residencies, but I was kind of feeling like maybe I'm not the right person to apply. But now, like, I just feel a lot more confident in it, and I'm excited to look through the spreadsheet that Rebecca shared. So thank you.
You're all 100% the people who should apply. 100%.
Absolutely. And the other thing is,
minds and
yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, if you know, I know that this is a lot of information, and it's still, even with maybe like clarifying what exactly a residency is, like it can still be like, I don't even know where to start. So Ellie and I are both here to, if you're still like, all of these sound cool, or like this type of thing sounds cool, but I still don't really know where to look or whatever, like, please, you know, reach out to me, because I know each of you and your work, you know, pretty well, and will for sure be able to work with you to help narrow it down or point you to things that might not be on here or whatever.
Yeah, and same here. It is my job to go, okay, we just heard all this information. What's right for you? I also do want to give a shout out to Virginia, who inspired this whole webinar in the first place. So we would not be having this meeting without Virginia. And Dan, I know you wanted to talk about the Oaxaca residency. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Not at all. I promise I'll get to it. I wanted to just give a little bit of other things, thoughts that come to my mind. One is, we have this very informal residency here at Art Division, informal with a capital I, meaning Alex Gonzalez asked if she had a space where she could work, and we made a space for her to work. One of the side effects of COVID was we had an empty studio. So, and now Robert Ortiz is just sort of, I don't even think he asked, he just sort of set up a space to work. So he's our artist in residence now. But I'm just asking, I'm not posing it as you should apply for the residency. I'm more posing it as, I wonder if it's something we should pursue and seek other space. It's not out of the question. We've been offered space over on 8th Street. I'm just sharing with you what I'm thinking. Like, why don't we have a more informal, formal residency thing set up here? You know, it's not out of the question. So we'd have a residency. The other thing I was going to say is there's Skowhegan, which is sort of in a way wouldn't you say, Rebecca, that's sort of the gold standard, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, Skowhegan's super prestigious. It's a huge deal if you get in. I definitely think it's worth it for all of our students to apply. Not only because it just is good to pull together an ambitious application, in my experience, that always has pushed my work, but Skowhegan is cool because it's judged blind. Like, they only look at your work. You don't need to worry about having a fancy resume or being able to show a certain level of experience. You just send, I think, 10 pictures of your work.
I will say that I went there, but it was 1979, I think. And I also have to say, I was not accepted. I applied and was not accepted. So I called them and I was like, well, can I go? Can I please go? And they let me in. You know, like, so being pushy is, you know, be a squeaky wheel. It really worked.
I'll actually say that I did the same thing with Chautauqua, which is the kind of school-like program that I was showing you. I got waitlisted at first, and then I just kept being like, come on, I really want to go.
That works.
And it worked. And they gave me a work study scholarship too. So there's
Yeah.
always leeway.
Yeah, that's, I was going to say also Penland, we just talked about Devi, who we just hired to be our program coordinator person, Devi Ramirez, just returned from Anderson Ranch. Do you know about Anderson Ranch, Rebecca?
So I went to Anderson Ranch in 2019, and it's actually also on this spreadsheet, but it's sort of like Penland. It's in Aspen. And they have huge, like super famous artists and curators coming through there. It's an amazing networking opportunity, but it's also like a really cool opportunity to learn, like, I think they have like a glass blowing facility. They have a lot of different woodworking kind of stuff. It's cool and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, Devi, another friend of mine, was just coincidentally there with her, named Kim Frady, and then Kathy Opie, who's a big deal photographer, was teaching there. So when you all are here, I think in a way, the theme of what I'm saying is keep it human, meaning talk to Rebecca in person, talk to Ellie in person. When you see Devi, talk to her. Like, how was it? How do you apply? When you talk to Dylan, ask him, how was it? You know, what do you do? How do you do this? Or like I said, there's really like 6 people around here who did go to Penland, who most of you have interacted with some of them in your classes. I'm getting really close to talking about Oaxaca. I also did go to I worked for 2 years at a place called the International School of Art in Umbria, Italy, and it was fantastic and goofy as all get out. They were so unbelievably disorganized that you just kept feeling they're going to go to jail, but it was great. It was just such a great experience to be in Italy. And it was kind of a scam. They were kind of scammed me into going. And it was two of the best summers of my life, because you're with these amazing people. You get to go to Florence. You get to see all this great art. So I couldn't recommend it higher. And then there's another one in Assisi. And it sort of doesn't matter how kooky they are. It's that you're just there. So, I mean, I'm a Italophile. I love Italy, and I would recommend you guys get yourself there. Also, the language is so similar to Spanish, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Okay, now I promise, here we go. I've ran out of things other than Oaxaca. Oaxaca is that the International School of Art? Yes, it was. Is it still in existence, Rebecca? Do you know? Because I've lost touch with them. I think it's connected with the New York.
It is. I just looked it up. It may be a scam, but it's
like you're in
a
paradise.
great one. Wait, here we go. Yeah, look at this.
Who's that person? I wonder if I know who that is.
Anyway, it's all
great. And again, apply and see what they say. And again, it's sort of the theme of what we're saying. And this is a theme that applies to everything. When you apply to things and they say, oh, I'm so sorry, apply in 2028. You're like, no, I want to go now. I mean, be pushy. Be a little pushy. It works. It's the same with, like, if you apply to a show to be in a gallery and they say, oh, we're not looking at anybody. You go, will you look at me? I can't tell you how many times I've done that and it's worked. It's all very human. So don't let people tell you no. I mean, you could let them, but just don't listen to it. Okay, here we go. We have the funds to send students at least 2 a year to Oaxaca. We're also going to be, I think the people who are going have been selected, not to Oaxaca, but people are going to go to Merida, Mexico to help clear out. Did any of you remember Dagmar? Who knows Dagmar? Anybody there? I don't know if you, Dylan. Dagmar's parents were killed in Merida, Mexico. So her father has an art studio there. 2 students are going to help the family organize a studio. That'll be a full paid adventure, but I think those folks are picked, but that's going to happen in October. In January, we're looking to send at least 2 students to Oaxaca. And when you're in Oaxaca, I'm going down to do research in August, but I work with a printmaker there. One person probably would work with a printmaker. I've also done ceramics there. One would work with the ceramic artist in the country there. And then maybe something else. I work with a weaver there, so maybe people could do weaving. But if that's something that interests you, let me know. I don't know how formal, and I guess we have to make it more of a formal application, but just off the tops of your heads, are any of you Briseda? Dylan, you've been to, you're our poster boy. You've been to Oaxaca and did like somewhat of a residency there. Virginia, Selena, does that interest any of you? Kata, Angela? Kata and Angela, I have no idea because you're not on. Okay. I love that. All right. Well, okay. You're gonna have to get over your shyness and probably let us see you, because I don't. Kata, Angela, I know both of you, but anyway, yeah, and just it's put it on your radar. And if it doesn't happen in January, it can happen at another time of the year. But we have we have some money for this. So do you have any questions about it? Anybody?
I wanted to ask Dylan what his experience was like.
In Oaxaca?
Yeah.
Well, I was studying abroad there, so I got the full experience. I was living there. I made connections with a local alternative gallery, had an exhibition there, was not part of the school. I got to visit a lot of museums, and because I was living there, I had a student identification card, which allowed me to go to a lot of the museums for free. Archaeological sites included, so I got to visit about 18 different archaeological sites throughout Mexico. And I got to see a lot of traditional like crafts and media making, woodworking and textile and so forth. It was great.
Was this with art division or separately?
This was through my
okay.
university.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask. Thank
The
you.
ones who've done it through Art Division are Sandra Maldonado, which was unusual to say the least. She applied to go down there to take a workshop at this school called CASA. And somehow, I cannot really remember the chain of events, she ended up going down to teach a workshop at CASA. She ran a workshop for young mothers and it went wonderfully. So that's one incident. The other one was Luis Mateo, who went down to study printmaking, and he worked in the same print shop where I work. The third one was Luis Hernandez, who went down, he studied photography with a well-known photographer at the same place where Sandra taught, called CASA, which is unbelievably beautiful. And that's something that should be considered too. CASA is a residency there that they now do accept residents from the they accepted Luis, and then they hired Sandra to teach there. But CASA, at CASA in Etla, it's a magnificent, magnificent place. But that's separate from what we're talking about, and not, because it's just sort of, I've taught there 4 times. So that would be another place where you can go maybe take a class or look it up. And that's something I'll be in touch with Rebecca and Ellie about, like just turning them on to the wonders of CASA. And Ellie also had a wonderful trip to Oaxaca, right, Ellie?
Oh my God, it's the most beautiful place in the world. And I don't have to tell Briseda that because her grandparents live in the state of Oaxaca, not the city of Oaxaca. But Dan, I just wanted to make sure everybody understands, and I understand. So if students do this residency, that would include airfare, and that would include a room and board, right? They'd have a place to stay.
Yes. I mean, we haven't quite figured that out. There's a hotel I always stay at that costs $50 a night, and it would either that or the other one stayed with Fernando, the guy who's the printmaker. He stayed at his house free. So it'll work out. We'll figure it out. I mean, the noisy, but it's $50 a night, so we can afford that. Yeah, and again, we're making this up as we go along, as you may perceive. We've done it with the other guys, but this is new in that we do have more funds to send it probably, and it's better to send two at the same time so you have someone to talk to, because it could be a little lonely and strange to be in a city where you don't know anybody. And who's the one whose family's from Oaxaca? Was it where are they from, Brisaida?
They're from the northern mountains. So when I go, I'm in the mountains.
Oh, so you go.
Yeah. I just came back like 3 weeks ago.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah. Have you met Sandra Maldonado? Because her family also lives in the mountains.
Yeah, she actually introduced me to art division.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is your family's from the same region or no?
From the same region, yeah, the northern region.
Wow.
We're just maybe like an hour or an hour and a half away.
Wow.
Mhm.
This is sort of a ridiculous thing to say, but do you find that the women in the town where you live are very strong individuals?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I don't know how to say that because I just have so many women friends down there. It's like, well, there's Leela Downs, the singer, who's the area and town she's from, and I have a very good friend who actually came to Art Division and ran a workshop named Inez, and Inez is just such a powerhouse. And Inez is the one who told me that. She said, women from my region are really
yeah,
very strong, Oaxacanos all are, but I just find the women to be really creative and wonderful people. So, it's all kind of, I wish I could put my finger on it, how to explain it, but Art Division, it sort of exists in this kind of like whatever zone, meaning what you would invent it. If you guys are interested in going, one more time, everyone said, Selena, are you interested in this? Okay, Kata, you're interested in this. Angela, you're interested. It's everybody. Yeah, so just in a way, talk to me and also form it yourself. Like I would like to go and do blah, blah, blah. I mean, the two things are printmaking and ceramics. The printmaking is my studio where I work, and it's kind of, it's like working in a car repair shop or something. It's not pretty, or it's very intense, but the ceramics is in a beautiful place in the country. And it's a wonderful teacher named Claudio, but that's where Inez also works. So I guess just almost write up something and just say, I want to go because of blah, blah, blah. And this is what I'd like to study. I do also have, like I said, have a connection with the weaving community there, because I design carpets, and so have some of our students. So that's something else. I don't, so I'd almost like what you would create it yourself, like what you would want to do. Like, I've given you some options. I would also, that's where I'm deferring to Ellie and Rebecca, if we could get on board with CASA and look at what they offer, because I'm friends with the director, Daniel Brenna, who runs it. And he's the one who's set it up, where I've taught there, and also had Aunt Sandra teach there. So, and Louise
I'll get into that. Yeah.
And like the only thing I mentioned being in Italy, Oaxaca is just as beautiful. I mean, Casa is as beautiful as anywhere I was in Italy. It's just incredible. So, do you all have any other questions or
what's
thoughts?
the time frame? The time period we'd be there, like a week, maybe less, more.
Probably 2 weeks at the most. I mean, I think, and as you know, when you're there 2 weeks, you feel you've been there 5 months. It's time stretches, but 2 weeks at the most. I think 1 week, 2 weeks. I'm sorry, I don't have clearer answers.
No, it's okay.
You're talking January.
January is what I'm thinking, because I'm going to go down and also because of COVID, I have no idea if we can go in January. I have no idea. Brisaida, when did you go? Did you just go and came back?
I actually went but came back just in time before Delta exploded.
Has Delta exploded in Oaxaca?
No. Like everything going on with the news and infections going up. So I came right before that.
But when you were there, was everyone in masks and everything?
Oh yeah. Everyone's in masks. Well, in my because we're from small communities, they're very restrictive on who comes in. The city is very I mean, there's everyone in the city.
Everyone in the city with masks or?
Yeah, with masks.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm in for. I mean, I'm also, if it's really awful, I won't go, but.
Also one thing I would keep in mind is that when I went and I was in the city for a few days, I did try to go to like libraries or museums, and you had to like make an appointment. It's a little bit harder because of COVID to visit. I don't know if this would be the case, but I mean, just something I noticed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when I'm there, all I do is work. I just stay in my hotel, go to the shop and go to eat. That's it. I don't really do much. So I think I'm okay, but anyway.
Well, I'm thinking we should probably bring this to a close.
Yeah.
Unless anybody has an urgent question. But Dan, as you see, Dan is here to answer questions. I'm here. I'm going to email each of you individually to follow up and see if you have questions. Most of you know Rebecca well, so we are all here to, follow up with any interests or questions that you have. And I wanted to thank Dan and Rebecca for sharing your afternoon with us, and all of you for showing up. So, and I know there's several people who are going to be watching the recording of this too. So any final thoughts, Dan or Rebecca, that you want to leave us with?
No, this was so magical because we have Dylan who's been to Penland. You all are interested in going to Oaxaca. It's like, it feels perfect, and it would have been an overwhelm to have too many more. And Dylan also knows Oaxaca, Ellie knows Oaxaca. So just don't let any of your hesitancy or fear get in your way. Just think about applying to some of these opportunities we've suggested. I mean, Dylan, how was it in Penland? Was it everyone in masks?
They brought down the, I guess, restriction in Penland just because of how much open space there was, but only when you were in the dining area, you were required to wear a mask.
Okay. All right. On that cheery note, bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Ellie.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you in a minute.
Stay well.
Oh, the other thing I said, I started it, but I'll finish it with, come and get supplies. Come and get supplies. You can't believe it. So, all right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.